Thanks, Matt. And good afternoon, everybody. Good to see everybody. And hard to screw last weekend up, so happy to talk about that. More importantly, I thought we had a good bye week, a productive bye week. It was, I think, went pretty smoothly. And needless to say, we turned our attention now to the challenge that awaits us in Columbus this weekend. So basically, say three things about Ohio State, three facts. First and foremost, they've got really good players, all three phases. And I think are really deserving of their ranking, certainly. They've had great production in all three phases, and they're really well coached in all three phases. So it's kind of what you'd expect with a top-ranked team like that, just very, very impressive in all regards. And then, on top of that fact is that we're playing a very hostile environment. The Big Ten's full of a lot of tough venues to go to, and certainly Columbus fits that bill. So, against that backdrop, we have a big challenge in front of us right now. And the bottom line is this, games get played on Saturdays, at least they used to, now Fridays as well. They get played on the game field. So it's really all about the players and what they do. And as we move forward here, and kind of the message we've tried to convey to our team is that, it's all about our preparation. And it's all about, the way we practice and put study in on film, that type of thing. That's what's going to lead to good execution, and that's what it takes to beat a team of this caliber. So, basically, it's really dependent on how we prepare right now this week, and that's where our focus is as we move forward. I think we all have a good, good grasp for what's in front of us there. So, finish our preparation, make sure we go in there with the right mindset, and know that it's going to be, quite a challenge for us. And that's kind of it in a nutshell right now where we're at as a football team. Captains remain the same. Got Jay Higgins and Quinn Schulte defensively, and then Luke Lachey and Cade McNamara offensively will be captains going on for the toss. And then our kid captain this week, I know we're on the road, but we'll have a kid captain. That's 16-year-old Hayden Ulrich, and she's a young lady who at age 7 was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia and underwent treatment over at the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. And happy to say right now she's doing outstanding. 16-year-old doing really well. Outstanding student, aspires to be a nurse. I guess she's very involved in show choir, gets straight A's, and on top of that is taking classes at Kirkwood for her nursing degree. So she's just a tremendous young lady, and I'm told was named after Hayden Fry as well, unlike Hayden Large. She was named after Coach Fry, so no big surprise, but we'll be thinking about her this weekend, and I'll throw it out for questions.
Hey, Kirk. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. Tons of weapons on this Ohio State offense between Emeka Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith, and then running backs Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins. I guess looking at film, what's the strategy in facing a team that has this many weapons?
Yeah, I mean, needless to say, they're very balanced, and they've got good talent at all positions. So it's not like you can load up in any one area. You really just have to play great team defense, and it's probably the only way you have a chance to slow them down. They've had a lot of big plays this year, and they've got really good players. You just named 4 of them that are really talented. And, they're really good up front as well, very veteran up there. So, and that's their whole team. They've recruited well historically, and now they've done a good job with the portal as well. A couple key additions on the offensive side, running back, center to name 2, and obviously the quarterback on top of it. So right up the middle, three really good players. So there really is no weakness there, and it's just a matter of trying to, compete with them each and every down.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Kirk, I know in the offseason you wanted to bring in an offensive coordinator to bring in some new ideas while also respecting complementary football in all three phases of the game. It seems like the players really enjoy working with Coach Lester. You guys have scored 30 in the 3 of the first 4 weeks. The statistics are much different than they've been. I wanted to ask you from your vantage point, what has he brought to this program and how have things been so far?
It's just like when we announced him back in February. I feel the same way. Just first and foremost, a really quality person. And, I've been here 34 years now. I think I've worked with whatever it would be. Let me do the math. 2 coordinators plus 4, 6 coordinators offensively, and 3 defensive coordinators in my time here. Fortunate that we have good stability, and I think Tim's been a great fit with the program. Tremendous person, as I said. Outstanding football coach on top of it. Just, very positive and has really good expertise, and his passion and love is the offensive side. He was a former quarterback, And, I think he's really fitting well with everybody in every regard. I also respect the fact or appreciate the fact that he does have, I think, a real perspective of the value of team football. And that's always been important here, at least during my 34 years. And I think he has an appreciation for that, too. So he's been a great fit. And, happy with the stats so far. But at this point, we've only played 4 games. So it's kind of like rankings. I think everything pans itself out or bears itself out a little bit more once you get into the latter part of the season.
John Steffi, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Wanted to ask about a couple of players injury-wise. Will Sean Williams and Seth Anderson, are either of them back now after the bye?
Yeah, they both came back at the end of last week, I guess Friday. I think they were both on the field full speed. So, yeah, it's good. And, if there's a positive thing right now, I guess there's a lot of positive things, but one is that we're probably about as healthy as I can remember ever. We had a record short medical meeting. Every Monday night we meet medically, myself, Ray, and the medical staff. And happy to say, it was short and quick, so that's good. Our body weights are good. So, a lot of, for this time of year, we're doing pretty well that way.
Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register. Just curious, obviously, not many people go into Ohio State and win a game, but that's the only stadium really you haven't won in the Big Ten as a head coach. You got it done in '87, but is that like something you'd like to accomplish, I guess, at some point, in your career?
Yeah. It's meaning winning this week is what you're saying? Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I don't look at it that way, like, haven't done this or haven't done that. But do we want to win this week? Absolutely. Yes, we sure do. And we're trying to prepare for that right now. And there's probably a reason to cite, the facts that you just gave. Historically, they've been really good, and they're tough to beat there. We all know that going into it. So, it's all about what we can do to try to get ready. And I don't want to say it took a miracle play, but it was close to that back in '87 over there. And, we were close in '09 and played a heck of a game there in '13. So we've had some times where we've really made it competitive. And I think there's some parallels between all those games. You're going to have to make some plays. You're going to have to compete for the full 60. Because they were awfully good in '87, and they were awfully good in '13. Some similar challenges back then. It felt like they had 12 guys on the field offensively. So somehow, some way, you've got to contain them a little bit, and then also try to muster up some plays on your end, and it's always a challenge.
Yeah, Scott Docterman with The Athletic. Back a few years ago when the NCAA allowed a 4-game tryout, I guess it was for freshmen or whatever, to allow them to play but then maintain their eligibility. At first, you seemed to be in favor of that, and then a couple of years later, you kind of just said, I wish we would just go to a 5 years to play football. And it sounds like that there's a kind of a growing, swelling. The coaches are coming on along with that. What is your feelings now on this? Because we've seen it kind of manipulated, if you will, in a couple of different situations.
Yeah, that's a new wrinkle. What's happened there is a new wrinkle to some degree. So, nothing surprises me for a long time, but especially nowadays. But, yeah, I still feel the same way. I think, to me, it would make sense just to give players the option to have 5 years. The trend right now is to be at a place less than longer, as it was, maybe 10 years ago. So, yeah, I'd favor that. Certainly would favor that. And then, what you're referencing, what happened last week at a couple places, it's just, it's a reflection of the times, and there's, it is kind of what it is, unfortunately.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. You guys beat Penn State in 2021 at Kinnick, but since then haven't beaten Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State. From your perspective, where do you feel like that gap is maybe between where you're and they're at, and what needs to be done to kind of close that?
Yeah, again, I'm not really looking at it that way. We just take each week individually. But, it kind of goes back. We've been playing pretty good defense. It's an old narrative. We've played pretty well defensively. We've had issues with the offensive line. And then last year we obviously had interest, some challenges at the quarterback spot. So it's yesterday's news. And if you're going to play a team that is nationally ranked, top 10 team, and, those teams you mentioned typically are in that neighborhood, I'm not saying you got to be firing on all 3 cylinders, but it sure helps. It gives you a chance. And, I guess I look at it the other way. I look at last year. I'll go back to that, because I know a lot's been written about how many points we scored against whoever it was a year ago. And, I think maybe you look at it the other way. Maybe we did a hell of a job winning 10 games. So there's two ways to look at every coin. And talent, there's ebb and flow of talent. I've been here 25 years, going on 26 now, and it's true each and every year. Every year's got its own challenges. You deal with the challenges that are in front of you. Try to play to your strengths and do the best you can on an annual basis. And, over the long haul, we're proud of our record. So, how it all pans out, it's a year-to-year basis kind of thing.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, last week we got the chance to talk to Tim, and he said he felt like the passing game, timing-wise, was maybe closer than it appears. I think some of the players have kind of felt that as well. Cade and a couple others said that they really utilized the bye week to, one, heal up, and two, just kind of continue to work on that timing. Just from your vantage point, what's your kind of assessment with the passing game right now, just as far as timing and trying to piece everything together as the season goes along?
Yeah, I'm only smiling because this is a hell of a week for a test drive. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge there. And just, part of that, too, is blocking their guys up front. They've got an outstanding front. I think they have 8 all-conference players back on defense. Maybe it's 9. I'm not sure. But they've got really good talent. So their back end is really talented and veteran. The front guys are the same way. But I agree with what the players said. I think we're making progress. And I was not overly concerned about the statistics coming out of our last game. I was really pleased with the way we played and just the way we responded in that game. And you play the way the game's going, too. That's the other part of it. And, personally, I hope we don't have 60 pass attempts this week because if we do, I know what the outcome's going to be. But we're making progress, and I feel like we're progressing pretty much in every area over the last 4 weeks. And now the challenge is we got a 8-week stretch right now. We're just focused on the next 6. But, that's the challenge is make improvement each and every week.
Owen Sebring with KGA. I think it was LeVar Woods last week who was talking about Drew Stevens' growth, and in previous years maybe him having false confidence is what he called it, and this year kind of growing into what is earned confidence maybe. Is that kind of what you've seen in him too? Because he's perfect this year, had a pretty clutch kick against Minnesota at the moment, and hasn't really missed, hasn't faltered at all this year.
Yeah, it's night and day difference, and just in general terms, and again, I can only speak to Iowa because it's about the only place I've been in college football. Certainly in major college football. So for us, it's year 3 is kind of like a magical number, if you will. It seems where guys start to get traction as a rule. Not there's exceptions to everything. And I think Drew's probably a classic example of that. He did a nice job, and 2 years ago really did a really nice job. Last year kind of tailed off at the end. And I think all of us are wondering how he'd respond to that, but he's really come back just extremely, extremely impressive in impressive fashion. Starting in the spring, like he practiced well in the spring, and he's doing a really good job right now. And the kick that he made up into Minnesota was very, very impressive. So he's just, I think LeVar put it really well. It's a true confidence now because he's earned it and he's more mature physically, certainly. So he's better able to execute his job. And he's just a whole different person. Not only as a football player, as a person too. He was a young guy, and he came here early. And probably wasn't the most physically mature guy. I mean, can imagine what I was like in high school, and he's here trying to play college football. So I thought he did a really good job early, considering, but now he's a much different person and football player on top of it.
Scott Docterman again with The Athletic. I wanted to ask about the line of scrimmage. I think most people will jump to the skill position players, but this seems to be a real classic line of scrimmage game.
Yep.
What do you see from specifically on their defensive line that's veteran and tough? What can you do offensively to displace the line of scrimmage and give your team a chance to win?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, snap-to-snap challenge, and on top of that, they're deep. They play and they get ahead in so many games. I mean, early. So their backups are good too. They've got, if you want to call those guys backups, they've got about probably counted at least 8, maybe 10 guys that play and play effectively. And even, when games in the first hand, they'll roll some guys in there, keep their other guys fresh. But they're physical. They've got good size, and they use that size. They really play physically, aggressively. They make you block them, and it's easier said than done. So it's going to be a good challenge for us. And their backers, very athletic and very active, and they do a good job letting those guys roam and get to the ball. So and they're good tacklers when they get there. So it's a really their stats are really impressive defensively, and it's for a reason.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Deshaun got the start against Minnesota. Do you anticipate him being out there to start the game again as well, and just kind of where the position opposite of Jamari is right now?
Yeah, I think he will. But, again, that's a position where there's a lot of equity in there. The gap is fairly close, I think, with all four guys that we listed back in August. So it's week to week. We'll just let the guys keep playing, keep maturing, and see how they do. And, Jamari's playing really well, and he's healthy, so that's a good thing for us. He's a really respected guy and a leader for us.
Chad Leistikow again. I'll try to phrase my question a little better this time. When you have a guy at quarterback who's beaten Ohio State, how much value do you put in that going into a game like this? That somebody's done that at all?
Yeah. I think the bigger pictures, what I referenced earlier is just, he's got experience in the conference in major college football. And, there are quarterbacks that transfer too, but he's had really a lot of success as a major college, playing major college, Power 4, whatever we're called now. You know what I'm talking about? Is it Power 4? Power 4. Okay, so Power 4 experience, where he's played in the big time. But that's helpful. I mean, it's certainly helpful. It's better than going in with a true freshman. But so now I'm triggering thoughts here. I mean, I remember going in there, talking about near misses was 09, where a really young quarterback who had never started a game went in there, I thought played an outstanding game and probably deserved a better outcome than what we got that day. But, yeah, it helps. Experience is good at every position. And you can say about our team, last time we were over there, we were really young offensively. A lot of the same guys are back, but they're certainly different players. And, this is a whole different circumstance, different teams, all that stuff. But, yeah, it's in my mind, it's better to have experience than not have experience, certainly in a case like this.
Hey, Kirk, Elliott Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. Talking with Caleb a little bit this morning, Caleb Johnson. He had said, being from Ohio, that though he didn't get the offer from Ohio State, he didn't really feel like he had a chip on his shoulder. He just always wanted to beat them. That type of mentality. I guess I'm just curious as to what having that type of mentality from arguably your best player kind of does for your offense.
Yeah, I mean, I hope all of our guys have that attitude because that's what it's going to take. I mean, we're playing a really outstanding football team. So, I don't know how big a factor that's going to be, but, he's really been running well this year, as all of us know. He's been really focused and motivated. And I'm not saying he wasn't motivated before, but I think he's really focused on the right things now, and it's showing up in his performance. And we just talked about, Drew Stevens going into year 3. I think that's a factor here too, just the, better understanding the challenges of college football. And it'll be one this week. Nobody's really run through these guys very effectively. So it's going to be a real tough challenge. The holes are going to close quick. And, I'm just standing here thinking about a particular play back in 08. We're playing Penn State where, I'm standing there watching. I think we got about an 8 to 10 yard gain and ended up being 4-yard gain because Navarro Bowman closed the gap. And that's when you play a team like this, those gaps get, those gaps that look pretty good, all of a sudden shrink fast. And, so it's going to take everybody's best performance, and certainly Caleb can help us out. But, yeah, he's doing a really nice job.
John Steppe, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Kind of along those lines, how do you evaluate the run blocking through the first 4 games? And is there anything else that you kind of attribute in terms of the really much improved rushing offense, top 10 in the country at this point?
Our back is, all of our backs are running well, but Caleb certainly is running as well as anybody we've had in quite a while. But we're 4 games into it, so we're not ready to have a parade quite yet. And then, I said this back in August, I think we're a little bit more mature, certainly up front, and better than we've been the last couple of years. No knock on anybody that's, been out there playing the last couple of years. But, we've had our challenges. And fortunately, we've been healthy with these guys. They've been beat up a little bit, and they've experienced disappointment on the field, and now they're starting to have some success. I think they all realize it's going to be a huge challenge for them, but I think they're ready for it and eager for it. But, it all goes together, and having an experienced quarterback helps too. And he's starting, I think, look a little bit more comfortable out there, which is, something we were concerned about after a 2-year gap. So I think, it's a positive as well. But everything kind of has to go together, and at some point the passing game will complement the run game a little bit better. And, when you get that going, then you get a chance to have a good offense.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Coach, like you mentioned earlier, games do get played on Saturdays. Point spreads don't determine the outcome of games. Just talking to the players earlier today, they seem to really lean into, I guess, the underdog mentality of a team. Do you encourage your players to lean into the fact that it's like, hey, nobody's picking us to win, let's go out and see what happens?
No, I mean, they're pretty smart guys, and they probably know spreads a lot better than I do because I don't know them. So I'm sure, we're playing a top 5 team, so I'm sure we're underdogs. I get that. And but no, I think the important thing is for guys, whether it's a chip on the shoulder or the point spread, whatever. The important thing is just to understand, what it is, what it's going to take in terms of execution to have a chance to be successful. And first thing, you can't squander any opportunities. You really can't do that. And there's examples of their opponents, and Ohio State's got a lot to do with that. They force mistakes, they force turnovers or takeaways, and things like that. And then if you do get an opportunity, you got to cash in on it. And if you leave things out there in the field, chances are you're going to pay for it. And that's what happens anytime you're playing in a game against a ranked team, whether it's this game or like I referenced the Penn State game in 08 or the 09 game. I mean, those little things. It's that old cliche, the 5-8 plays on Sunday. You look at those and say, it's kind of where it's at.
Kirk, John Sears, WHO-TV. When you look at Ohio State's defense, giving up less than a touchdown a game, 60 yards on the ground, you guys counter with the rushing attack. When you have a game where they may force you to try to pass, do you still try to stick to your guns and run the ball? What you do best, or do you have to kind of alter sometimes with when they're really good on defense?
Yeah, and that's part of the. As I referenced a little while ago, stats can be a little misleading 4 games into it. Sometimes they're right on. But I think in their case, what it reflects to me is that, if you look at the halftime scores, pretty much. First game was a 10-point game, and then they just, they rolled in the second half. I think Marshall was 14 points at half. And then Ohio State, I believe, scored right off the bat, start the second half. So all of a sudden you're back to 21. And I know this, if we're playing in that kind of a hole in the second half, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be hard to stay to any game plan other than you got to score quick. And that's good for the defense typically. So, the first challenge is try to keep it where you have an opportunity to be balanced. And, against a team that's this talented, just in general terms, I guess my belief is, you can't just be all pass or all run unless that's all you do. And we're not an option team, so you got to be able to pass the ball a little bit. So that is going to be the challenge. We're going to have to find that right mix and try to be effective in both regards to have a chance to be in the ball game.
Hi, Kirk. Jack Lito with KCRG. I know we've asked a lot, especially to Coach Lester, about the new headset communication deal that goes off after 15 when the play clock gets to 15. Knowing what happened last week at Minnesota, basically with the added context of that headset, does it change any preparation with how you go up against the crowd of 100,000 that it's frankly going to be the loudest crowd you'll see all year?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, again, it's just very helpful. And, we still have the wristband stuff and all that just in case of the thing, because you have to be prepared if it goes down. That's the bad side about technology. Power failures are a challenge. So if it goes down, you have to have Plan B ready. But I think it's helpful. And, we're a very wordy system now, because of the West Coast offense. So there's I think it's been helpful. And to me, it's just better for the game. So I'm all for it. I think it's been good for everybody.
Scott again from The Athletic. Wanted to kind of bring you back to the 2013 game over there, which was very competitive all the way through the fourth quarter, and I think they're just athletes kind of paced the rest of the game. But you started out primarily running a lot of 13 personnel and really battering them, and Brandon Sheriff played maybe the best offensive line game I've ever seen by a lineman. When you look at that game, how do you analyze, can you project anything like that again into the future in this type of environment, or is just the game has changed too much to be?
Yeah, I'm always smiling. How old was I in 13? 2013. I was a lot younger then. That's good. So anyway, yes and no. Philosophically, that was our plan, try to keep the ball out of their hands a little bit and eat some clock. And, score some points, and Doozy had that long reception, which really helped the cause a little bit. So I think we pretty much got what we wanted accomplished that day, but to your point, in the fourth quarter, we just, felt like there were 12 guys, I said, with Carlos side, and then Braxton Miller, I think, was a quarterback, right, who could run and throw. So, but long story short, I don't think it's going to help us. This is just a whole different outfit, and so, we're trying to get a feel for them a little bit. And how we're going to, face up. And it's nothing new, but it's always a challenge when you try to think about yourself formationally and what you're doing versus what you see on film. And we're a little bit different than most people. So, you're doing some projecting, and it's just, there's a lot of guesswork that goes into it, and it's been that way forever. So, at some point we'll just kind of do what we do and try to match it up with anticipation of what they may do. And the good news is that they can only do so many things, but it's more concerning just about how they do it. They do it really well, and they're pretty effective. So, and since Coach Knowles has gotten there, they've really been good on defense. Not that they weren't before, but I mean, they're pretty good right now.
Mitch Vick, KGAN. Just wondering what you remember about Jim Lachey's playing days. I think you would have seen him a couple times back in the 80s, and what's the relationship been like with him now that Luke's here?
Yeah, so I don't. We've got a mutual friend that I guess he was kind of a late bloomer, which is interesting, because he was a first-round player and a really good player at Ohio State, and they've had a lot of really good offensive linemen, outstanding pro career. And so, I really didn't know him as a player. I knew a couple guys on the Redskins that, had gone through Pitt that were teammates of his. And then he ended up in San Diego, and, but I know him as a parent, and he's been just tremendous, really great. And they're a great family, unbelievable family, very close family, and do a lot of things together. And I think, Jim's had a great life, and he's got a great life professionally beyond football, and that's a cool thing. So it's been great having Luke in the program. He's just a stellar young person. Been a team captain every week, and my guess is that'll continue. Just a great leader, and so that's really the fun part about all this stuff, is getting to know the individuals and then the players' families on top of it, and all the good things that come with that. So they've been great parents, and he's in a little bit of a dilemma. I think Luke told me he's going to see 3 games this year. Obviously, this will be one of them. He'll be working it, but he's been they're bye weeks, and I guess they have a Friday night game, or we got one where he's able to get to him. So that's cool too. Okay, thank you. See you over there.